Welcome to Real Estate of Mind, a Farming Group podcast. Welcome to another edition of Real Estate of Mind. I'm Andy Gutman, and I am joined this morning from the beautiful Essex Center by Oakland County Treasurer Andy Meisner. Welcome to the show, Andy.
Thank you, Andy. I'm honored to be here.
Andy, for the very few people that don't know you, I thought we'd do a quick intro, have you talk a little bit about your background. Obviously, really jump-started your career here at Farbman many, many years ago, and helped us with our branding, and sitting here wearing my Farbman pin today that you helped create. But beyond that, Michigan State Representative, now in your third term as Oakland County Treasurer. Give our listeners the highlights of who Andy Meisner is.
Sure. Well, I was born and raised in this area. I grew up in Huntington Woods, not too far away from the Farbman family, and graduate. I started at Michigan State University.
A great university.
And then made a irrational decision to go to another school where I finished up. Can't quite explain that one. But yeah, I went to D.C. I started my career in Washington, D.C., working for Congressman Sandy Levin, nice. Where I learned a lot about how the federal government works, learned what true public service is about from Congressman Levin. Even the people that don't like him acknowledge that he's very honest and hardworking and has been a real mentor. And then I came home to Detroit and landed with Farbman Group and did some work, as you said, helping to update the brand. And then went to the State House of Representatives for 3 terms where worked on fixing the public mental health system in Michigan, which has been a real passion of mine. I authored the movie tax credits, which have since been eliminated, but had some real movement going there for a while. And then right around the time of the housing meltdown, I saw that there was a real need in Oakland County to try to shore us up against the foreclosure crisis, and that there were some innovative treasurers around the state that were doing some interesting things. And so ran for that office and was successful and have been serving as county treasurer since 2009.
Well, that's great. And you touched on a few things there that I'd like to discuss a little further with you. You touched on Sandy Levin as a representative of, the politics in a positive way. That, there was a time when politics was a little more gentlemanly, a little more about service.
Yeah.
And the Levins, certainly embody that. And that's a good mentor to have in that. The thing about politics is we don't have to agree on the way in which we do things. What we have to do, if we're ever going to serve the citizens, is act in a manner that is professional, that is respectful. And you don't see that much these days. There seems to be an unfortunate pivot to trash talk, negativity. I don't want to get too deep into politics, but one of the things that I've always admired about you is you're focused on doing a job to serve the citizens, as opposed to being that person that's, I want everyone to know that I'm Andy Meisner, for God's sakes. And that's a pivot from what you see a lot today. So I want to commend you for that.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
The other piece to it that you spoke of that I think is interesting to our listenership through you're still a very young man. And so I know you don't feel like it, and some days we all feel that way, but you've got a huge political trajectory that is ahead of you, and obviously you're writing your own narrative on your future, which I think can go as far as the White House. I'm hopeful one day to see an Andy Meisner White House, but either way, I'm going to leave my own thoughts on that.
You're too kind.
But when you stepped into the role of as a state representative, and you were, I'm sure there were others that helped you with the movie. It was credits or tax incentives.
Yeah, that's right.
We saw it really helped put Michigan and Detroit on the map. We held a few movie shoots at our properties. I want to say, Batman versus Superman was one of ours down in Detroit. And I think more than the dollars it brought in, because that was the big question is, what kind of effect it has on the bottom line.
Sure.
That's always our question, when we're spending dollars, we're giving away those tax credits. But it put Detroit on the map again as a place that was open to do business. And that's a pretty cool thing. So I'm not sure what the bottom line effect was.
Yeah.
Because I think you can't always quantify that when you see, look at where Detroit is today. That was one of the first programs where people were saying, I want to do business in Detroit. It's open for business now. So commend you on that.
Yeah, well, thanks. Ernst & Young did a third-party study looking at the financials on the tax credit. And what they found was that for every $1 that the Michigan taxpayer invested in this strategy, $6 were generated. And those $6, weren't coming into the coffers in Lansing. They were being deployed where they can make the most impact in the hands of businesses and entrepreneurs, whether it's a real estate company, that is getting, their property used for a movie, whether it's a food or craft services company.
Right.
The car rental companies blew up.
Yeah.
The hotels and hospitality sector saw huge increases in utilization. And so I tried to focus it on the dollars and cents impact, which I think really justified the expenditure. But this other piece that you're talking about is really important. We did those bills in 2007 and 2008. GM and Chrysler were in bankruptcy.
Right.
The Michigan economy was flatlining on the operating table, and we could not attract investment to save our life. And so, as important as the money is, the kind of qualitative measures like, hey, Michigan and Detroit are open for business, and there are reasons why you would want to come to Michigan, those things I think are really valuable, and they're hard to put a number on. But that's the sort of thing that we really were trying to encourage. And I think if the tax credits had been left undisturbed for 3 to 5 years, that would have given us enough time to build up a strong enough domestic industry where we could have taken the gas off of the incentive and seen Michigan continue to be a top 10, top 15 market. Unfortunately, despite the fact that it passed with huge bipartisan support, there was just this weird change in direction. But listen, what policy has got to be about and what politics has got to be about is about serving the people and making a difference that makes a positive impact on people's lives. I mean, that's ultimately what it's about. It's not about whether or not you can get your name in the paper. We have people in Michigan that have needs, and what the state government is supposed to be about and the county government is supposed to be about is meeting those needs. And one of the things that's been gratifying about coming to the county, the legislature is pretty partisan with like the Democrat Republican stuff. One of the things I love about being at the county is that while I do run as a Democrat and identify as a Democrat, the stuff that I do, you can't really put a D or an R after it. Right. And that's almost even more gratifying. Without a doubt.
And again, I just want to reflect on the fact that you are about service and you're about innovation. And that's an interesting thing in this day and age, because there are a lot of people who, they go into office and it's a very reactive approach to office. You take a very proactive approach. It's let's get these movie incentives out there. I'm going to segue now into your current role, if you don't mind.
Please.
So during your time serving in Oakland County as the treasurer, and we were talking beforehand, and you mentioned that most people don't know what that job's even about.
Yeah.
I think that's probably true of a lot of political positions where we go, yeah, that's the treasurer. I don't know what that means,
right.
But you came in at a time of economic crisis.
Yeah.
You talk about learning under fire. I mean, that was a time when foreclosures were the hot topic.
Yeah.
Oakland County, a very wealthy county, but not without its own problems during the recession. Everyone had them. And of course, in Oakland County, the city of Pontiac is probably the one that struggled the most during the downturn. I know that during the economic downturn, Oakland County became the largest real estate owner in Pontiac through the foreclosure process. But I want you to tell us and our listeners a little bit about what you did to help the citizens with their tax issues during that time, what you've done since then to promote the city of Pontiac, and that I think is a real true example of who you are as a person and as a servant of the government. And really maybe touch a little bit on maybe this is what you're most proud of having accomplished in your role, but maybe there's something else. Touch upon what makes you most proud of the job you've done.
Sure. Well, thank you. When I came in, the thing was on fire, and Pontiac was going through great challenges, but we were also having mortgage foreclosures and some tax foreclosures in Bloomfield Hills.
It was everywhere.
West Bloomfield.
Sure.
And Oakland County actually lost more in property values than any other county in the state of Michigan. Now we had further to fall.
Yeah, I was going to say
that's exactly. Well, it's true, but it did affect folks across the county and the region. And so, coming in with everything on fire, the first thing that we had to do was to try to kind of stop the bleeding.
Right.
And so the biggest way that we did that was by instituting a system of monthly payment plans for delinquent taxes. And, if somebody is in really a tough shape, I'm going to put you on a $25 a month payment plan. You're at least going to take responsibility for your delinquency. You're going to work towards paying it back. And now we've done over 18,000 of those, and that was for folks all across the county. But that's something that has made a real impact, because those 18,000 folks, they didn't lose their home.
Right.
And that family stayed in their home, and that was a pretty big deal, I think.
So of those payment plans you put in place, 18,000, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
What percentage of those have stayed on those plans?
Around 90%.
90%.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible.
Andy, I think it says something about human nature.
Yeah.
These are kind of cynical times, and the fact that we were able to, and every one of those, by the way, were individually negotiated plans with me or one of my staff members sitting at a table, talking to the family, talking to the taxpayer, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in those conversations. But the fact that those folks, they were overwhelmed by the large tax bill, but when we broke it down into a bite-sized piece, they were able to step up and to take responsibility. And so I do think that says something about human nature. And one of the other things is that there's a fellow named Parek out of Harvard that did a study recently looking at the impact of foreclosure on property values. And what this study documents is that for every property that is foreclosed, it experiences, on average, a 27% decline in property value.
Wow.
And what the Harvard study also documents is that not only does the foreclosed property suffer loss in property values, but the surrounding neighborhood gets hit as well. And so I think our big premise, in our office was not only is there a moral reason to keep families in their homes and to fight foreclosure, but as the treasurer, there is a bottom line argument that this is in the best interest of the county. We still lost $14 billion in taxable value. But when I think about what that loss would have been had we not acted, I think it would have been, much, much greater. And so I think that's probably the biggest, impact that we've had. For the properties where folks walk away and we're forced to sell the property at auction, we did try to innovate in that space, incorporating some of the modern day principles of real estate into the kind of outdated tax auction process. For instance, I put signs on the lawn, which they didn't used to do. I put the property on the website. I created a public-private partnership with the realtor community to get those folks helping me to sell the tax foreclosed properties, because who normally shows up at these auctions?
Right.
It's these investors, which is okay unless the investor is not going to act responsibly. And so by teaming up with the realtors, and we call it the Realtor to the Rescue program, we just won a National Association of Counties award for it. It was identified as a top 100 innovation in county government across the country. We're just able to connect more of those homes with families. And one of the challenges that Pontiac, for instance, experienced is that with all of those properties going through foreclosure, at the high water mark, Pontiac's residential real estate was 70% rental.
Wow.
And it's just hard. You're very active in local government. That there's a tipping point. And while it's good for every community to have some rentals,
right,
and to offer that full spectrum of kind of residential options, when it's 70% rental, the scale has tipped too far. And so by being able to get those properties into the hands of families that are going to live there, be really invested in the community, send their kid to the local school, it's just a way of doing things a little bit smarter.
That's fantastic. And now you have an upcoming auction of properties that you're participating in. Do you want to plug that? Tell us how people can go about finding those parcels.
Yeah, we conduct 2 auctions a year. The first auction was in July, which is the minimum bid auction, where the starting bid is the amount of back taxes and interest and fees that are owing.
Okay.
For the properties that don't sell at that auction, we're required to do one more auction that's going to happen on October 4th.
Okay.
Those properties, it's a little bit picked over, but there's still some value there. And people just have to be really eyes wide open about buying a tax foreclosed property, because there's some issues with the deed.
Sure.
There's some potential issues with the local government, and so we just try to educate folks so that they can be satisfied customers. But folks can learn more about the auction at our website, which is oakgov.com/treasurer. And registration is open right now, and so we encourage folks to register. And more than anything, we encourage folks to visit the property, talk to the local government about it before they purchase, so that they're a satisfied customer.
Yeah, I think that's, education is important. Whether you're buying commercial, whether you're buying residential, any kind of acquisition, people think, well, I'm getting a deal, and, because it's an auction.
Right.
And people in general have to do their homework. So if you're going to buy real estate, sometimes that's why you need the great people at Farbman.
Absolutely.
You need to be educated and get that knowledge base. So
yeah, the purchase price is just one part of the budget.
Right.
These properties are all going to require major renovation. A lot of them are going to need a roof, HVAC, electrical, and so you just want to have the benefit of a real estate professional, ideally. A Farbman real estate professional
Always
to
a good
kind
one.
of coach you through that process.
And to that point, I think it's really important to note, you do tend to, historically, the auction tended to be an area where you found a dozen or so players that's all they did for their living. They went in and tried to find a deal, and it wasn't always in the best interest of the government entity or whoever's auctioning. So the fact that you've engaged in a number of different strategies beyond just listing it on the auction, it sounds like that's benefited you greatly. And I love to see that. When we have a client who wants to sell their real estate, one of the things that we try to make sure they understand is it's about more than just the day of an auction. If we go that auction route, it's about more than just sending out a flyer on it. You have to be proactive. Get out there, contact the community, put out a sign on the lawn, put out notices, make the calls, and otherwise, the auction itself is only as good as what you've done to lead up to it. So it sounds like you learned real estate pretty well earlier in your career.
I've had some very good mentors in that area, including you.
Well, we'll try to overcome that still. Andy, so obviously most of our listeners are familiar with you. They know Andy Meisner. Anyone who's, anywhere in Oakland, Wayne, Macomb County knows who you are. You've served the government well. You've served those people that you represent well. Can't say enough good things about you, and real testament to what our politicians should all be doing, which is serving the people that they were hired to serve. I want to give you a chance. People might be saying, hey, of course I know Andy Meisner, but how do I get a hold of him? If I have questions, if I want to get involved. And you do something that I've never seen a politician before you do, which is amazing to me, because I used to say to people, they'd go, oh, you know Andy Meisner, right? Yeah, I know him. Do you know how to get a hold of him? I have a question. And I had your cell phone number, but no other politician that I've seen does this. You give out your cell phone to anyone and everyone that wants it.
Yeah.
And you don't hide from the public that you represent. You are proactive in that. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to tell people a couple ways they can get a hold of you if they have questions, they have ideas, because I know you listen to the people. If they have good ideas on making government better, you want to help that. And if they're hurting, you want to be there for them. So with that, I'm going to give you another shot of praise there.
Oh, you're too good.
And give you that chance to give out that cell phone number that you so readily do.
Well, there are certain core elements that need to be present for the democracy to function and to thrive. And people having access to their representatives is like the lifeblood of democracy.
Absolutely.
And so from my first days as a state representative, I have tried to be accessible in any number of ways, including giving out the cell phone, which is 421-ANDY. That's 248-421-2639. It's on my business card. It's on our website. And I really do encourage people to reach out and to contact me directly. They can reach us at the office as well at 248-858-0611. They can check out our website, www.oakgov.com/treasurer. I encourage them to check out our online art gallery.
Nice.
I've been doing a financial literacy themed art contest for the last 6 years.
That's really cool.
That high school students from around Oakland County participate in. We've given away about $60,000 in scholarships.
Wow.
Every piece of artwork that we've done is on the website.
Oh, that's really
and it's
cool.
amazing the way that these kids teach us about money matters. But yeah, I encourage people to be in touch. And I am really focused. There's no one person or politician or political party that has all the answers. The really good stuff comes from a collaboration that involves everybody. And I've gotten some fantastic ideas from friends in the private sector. And so, I try to have less of a focus on, I've got all the great solutions. But what I try to do is get great partners to together develop the sorts of solutions that can make an impact on the lives of people in Oakland County. And we've seen some benefit of that. We've kept the AAA bond rating through even the toughest of times in the Detroit bankruptcy. We have generated $80+ million in collections, and really helped to make Oakland County the special place that it is, through partnership with my colleagues. And more than anything, I just really appreciate the privilege of serving, and hope to make a positive difference in people's lives.
Yeah, and it's pretty clear that is your focus, and you've had that effect. I encourage any of our listeners who want to hear about the comeback story of Pontiac to get in touch with you. You do walking tours with people.
We do.
You've taken our crew of brokers around to show them what they've got, which has really helped us to be an active participant in Pontiac. We are all trying to find the next cool city. Detroit's had its renaissance and continues to. But Pontiac doesn't get the press yet that Detroit does, but it's coming back. We have heard you talk about Slows being a destination point, and one of my favorite restaurants, and I think everyone's favorite restaurant in Michigan. but it's an attraction to Pontiac. There's a lot of cool things going on there. It's coming back in a big way, and I applaud your efforts and that of Oakland County government, as well as the Pontiac government itself. So really cool stuff. I encourage our people to get in touch with you, talk about how there's still some opportunity to invest.
Yes, there are many opportunities.
It's still, maybe it's not the ground floor anymore, but maybe the second floor.
Yeah, I buy that.
And we're Detroit, we're probably in the CBD, we're 4 or 5 floors in the skyscraper. Yeah. There's still opportunity to make your mark on the city of Pontiac and be maybe the Dan Gilbert of Pontiac. That opportunity is out there for someone creative, innovative. Andy, I want to thank you for being a part of our show today. Maybe we'll find a time to get you back on with the hottest topics around. And on behalf of the Farbman Group and myself, Andy Gutman, thank you for joining us. This has been Real Estate of Mind. Join us next time for another wonderful edition of Real Estate of Mind, a Farbman Group podcast.